Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that a lot of people consider taboo. You know, ritualistic healings, uh, generational curses. We're going to be talking about the power of belief.
Yeah, the power of belief.
Our source today, just a
Yeah.
single first-hand account
Okay.
from a Mexican paranormal YouTube channel.
It's interesting.
It's called Podcast Paranormal.
Okay.
And we're going to be focusing on Season 3, Episode 26. It's titled Experiencias Extra Anomales Invitado Especial, Paco Arias.
Wow, so we're really going deep on this one. Just one episode, one person's story
Yeah.
to try to understand these bigger concepts.
Exactly. And what's so captivating about this particular episode
Yeah.
is that it isn't just rehashing, old legends, spooky stories. We're really hearing about lived experiences
Yeah,
that to Paco were very real and continue to shape his understanding of the world.
definitely. And that's what makes this so interesting.
Right.
We're not just talking about stories, we're talking about how they impact people's lives, their beliefs,
Yeah.
how they see the world.
And remember, our goal today isn't to convince you of anything. It's really just to kind of think of it as like a window into a belief system
Yeah.
that you might not be familiar with. We're going to present Paco's experiences.
What?
Let you draw your own conclusions about what it all means. So Paco's journey starts at like the tender age of 7.
Wow, okay.
He sees Doña Blanca, a traditional healer in his community, performing a ritual on a teenage boy.
Okay, so we're jumping right into it.
Right?
A ritual, 7 years old, that's going to be impactful.
Yeah.
What was this ritual all about?
So this wasn't your typical like healing session that you'd find at a hospital or anything. The boy was like exhibiting alarming, almost superhuman strength.
Oh, wow. Something beyond the normal.
Yeah. And Doña Blanca was using chanting, herbs, and even like physical contact to try to heal him.
So it's interesting. It sounds very hands-on, very involved, not just, giving someone medicine or something.
No, it's very different.
What do you think they were trying to achieve with these kinds of rituals?
Well, I think in a lot of cultures, there's this belief that illness can be caused by spiritual imbalances
Okay.
or even malevolent entities. And so these rituals, like the one that Paco witnessed, are intended to like restore balance.
I see. So they're trying to realign things spiritually.
Yeah. And this is often achieved through like a symbolic transference of the affliction.
Transference, like passing it on?
In a way, yeah.
Wow.
And that's precisely what happened with Doña Blanca, right? She takes on the boy's affliction herself.
She takes it on. Now, that's a powerful image, and it really gets to the heart of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
This belief that there's something shared, something that can be passed back and forth.
Yeah, and this act of transference is really central to many traditional healing practices.
Makes sense.
It really suggests a belief in a shared spiritual energy that can be manipulated, for better or worse.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about the individual, it's about the connections between people, the energies that flow between them.
Right. And what's interesting is Paco later found out that this boy had been messing around with a Ouija board
Oh, wow.
before his outburst.
So they're already suggesting a connection there.
Right. It implies a link between the ritual and some kind of spiritual entity.
I mean, that's going to stick with you.
Oh, for sure.
Seeing something like that at such a young age, it's going to shape your worldview.
And this event sparked a lifelong fascination with the paranormal for Paco,
Understandable.
even though he was raised in a devout Catholic household.
So even with that background, this experience stayed with him.
Yeah. So fast forward years later, Paco finds himself face to face with the unexplained once again.
Oh, here
He gets struck by this sudden illness, excruciating pain when he swallows,
Oh, gosh.
and he even develops a lump on his neck.
Okay, so this is serious. This isn't just like a cold or something.
No, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And modern medicine just couldn't offer any answers.
So he's going to doctors, I assume, and they're stumped.
Yeah, they're totally baffled.
That's terrifying, to be dealing with something and nobody knows what it is.
Yeah, it's a very scary situation. And so, out of desperation, Paco's girlfriend takes him to a church known for healing through prayer.
Okay, so they're turning to a different kind of healing.
But initially, he resists the ritual. He describes feeling this intense anger and a desire to lash out.
So it's not exactly a peaceful, accepting environment at first?
No, not at all.
Interesting. There's a struggle there.
Yeah,
Like he's pushing back against it somehow.
right. But during the prayer, something extraordinary happens.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Paco experiences a sensation of movement in his stomach.
Movement.
Yeah. Followed by violent vomiting.
Oh, man.
What he expels is shocking. It's a large object filled with blood.
What? A blood-filled object?
Yeah.
That's intense.
It's very vivid imagery.
And this just cures him.
Yeah, it's pretty much instant. The lump on his neck vanishes. He can eat and drink without pain.
So whatever it was, it's gone.
Right. This experience cemented Paco's belief in the power of spiritual forces.
Yeah. I can see how something like that would have a profound impact.
Even, those considered dark or malevolent. He saw firsthand how something beyond conventional medicine could affect his physical health.
Makes you think, doesn't it? About the power of the mind, belief, all these things we don't fully understand.
Right. And if you think that's wild, just buckle up, because Paco's next story delves into the complex world of generational curses.
Generational curses. Now we're getting into some heavy stuff.
Yeah, and the consequences of envy.
Okay, envy. A powerful emotion.
He recounts the story of a man whose success as a chef sparks intense jealousy within his own family.
His own family. So we're not talking about strangers here.
No, it's his brothers.
Oh, wow. So this is close to home.
And this envy turns into something much darker. The man suddenly falls ill. His business starts to crumble. Even his employees start experiencing misfortune.
Oh, wow. Like a domino effect.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect of bad luck impacting everyone around him.
Chilling. It's almost like that envy, that negativity is spreading outward.
It's a reminder that sometimes the people closest to us, harbor the most resentment.
Definitely. The people we least expect can surprise us.
So this man, desperate for answers, seeks the help of a spiritual healer.
Okay. So they're going beyond the realm of what we typically consider.
Mm-hmm. And the healer's diagnosis is shocking. Brujeria?
Brujeria.
It's a form of witchcraft orchestrated by the man's own brothers.
Wow. So this is intentional.
Yes, very much so.
And it's coming from within his own family. That's a betrayal on a whole other level.
Absolutely. It's not just about envy. It's about, the lengths people will go to when they're consumed by it.
Absolutely. It makes you think, doesn't it? About how far people will go, the darkness that can reside within us.
Right. It's a classic tale of betrayal, but with this, supernatural twist.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about brujeria?
Yeah. So brujeria is complex and it's multifaceted.
Okay.
Often translated as witchcraft. But it encompasses a range of practices, beliefs, all related to manipulating spiritual energy.
For good or for bad?
Well, in this case, obviously, it's for malevolent purposes.
Right.
But it's deeply rooted in Mexican folklore. And it's often associated with these folk healers, people who use their knowledge of herbs and rituals and spirits for both healing and harming.
So it's not inherently good or bad, it's how it's used.
Exactly. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for different purposes.
So this man, cursed by his brothers, undergoes cleansing rituals to break the brujeria.
Makes sense. He's got to try to counteract it somehow.
Yeah, and as he goes through these rituals, a series of tragedies strike his brothers.
Oh, no. What kind of tragedies?
Their wives die, and then they lose their unborn children.
Oh, wow.
Suggesting this, powerful reversal effect.
Like their own actions are coming back to haunt them.
Exactly. It's a very chilling example of karma, but in a much more tangible and immediate sense.
It's not some abstract concept here. It's real-world consequences.
Right. And it's not just about their actions. It's about the unintended consequences.
Yeah, that ripple effect.
Their actions have profound consequences, not just for their intended target, but for those around them as well.
That's a powerful message, that our actions can have consequences we don't foresee.
Paco emphasizes that this is a common theme in stories of curses, that this ripple effect often extends beyond the intended victim.
It makes you think about the interconnectedness of everything.
Right. It makes you think about the potential consequences of our actions, even those that are rooted in these negative emotions.
Like envy and resentment.
Right.
Powerful stuff. And it really gets you thinking about, the choices we make and the impact they have.
But the stakes get even higher as Paco shares the heartbreaking story of his own grandmother's sudden decline.
Okay, so this is getting personal now.
Very personal. It begins with intense stomach pain.
Okay.
And this sensation of being physically constricted by an unseen force.
Sounds familiar. Kind of like what Paco himself went through.
Mm-hmm. And just like with Paco, doctors are baffled. They can't diagnose or treat her.
So they're facing that same fear of the unknown?
Right. And then things take a turn towards the paranormal. Paco and his family start noticing strange occurrences at their grandmother's home.
Oh, okay, like what Give me some examples.
So they're observing unusual animal behavior.
Interesting.
They're finding mysterious objects left outside.
Okay, so things are definitely off.
Yeah, and they're witnessing other unexplained events. These are often seen as like classic signs of potential spiritual interference, especially in Mexican folklore.
Makes sense. It's like the unseen world is intruding on their reality.
Driven by fear and concern, the family seeks the help of a spiritual healer.
So they're going back to that realm, seeking answers beyond the conventional.
Right, and the healer's diagnosis confirms their worst fears. Powerful brujeria.
So this isn't just some random act of ill will. It's targeted. It's potent.
And the healer warns the family that someone close to them is responsible.
Oh, wow. So now there's a layer of suspicion, a fear within the family itself.
That's a chilling thought. Imagine the emotional turmoil of suspecting someone you love might be behind your grandmother's suffering.
It's like a horror movie come to life, but it's real for these people.
Right. So during these initial cleansing rituals, they discovered disturbing objects hidden within the grandmother's belongings.
Okay, like what? What kind of objects?
Well, one of them is a defaced religious image that actually resists burning.
Oh, that's creepy. There's a real sense of power there.
Yeah. And these objects hold specific significance in the context of brujeria.
So they're not just random items, they're tools, they're symbols.
Exactly. In many traditions, objects can be imbued with spiritual energy and used for, both healing and harming.
So the discovery of these objects in the grandmother's belongings, it validates the healer's diagnosis.
Right. It adds to the family's fear.
It's a tangible sign that something is very wrong.
So the rituals are performed, but unfortunately, the grandmother's condition only temporarily improves.
Oh no. So the curse is still holding on.
Yeah. And the healer reveals that it has actually been reinforced, meaning whoever is behind this is determined to inflict harm.
So it's an ongoing battle, and they're up against someone who's actively working against them.
And it's this element of betrayal that adds, like, a psychological torment to the situation.
Absolutely. It's not just about fighting a supernatural force, it's about a deeply personal betrayal within their own family.
And then it gets even more personal for Paco and his wife.
Okay. How so?
They begin experiencing shared episodes of sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. Now that's terrifying.
They're both witnessing a small entity tormenting his grandmother.
Wow, so they're both seeing the same thing.
Yes. It's not just a figment of their imaginations.
That lends a lot of credence to what's happening.
Right. And it really highlights the interconnectedness of the family.
They're all in this together, whether they like it or not.
During a final, desperate ritual, they discover a heart-shaped pouch hidden within the grandmother's belongings.
A heart-shaped pouch. What was in it?
It's filled with animal remains, hair, and other disturbing items.
Oh gosh, that's unsettling. What's the significance of those things?
Well, those kinds of items are often used in dark magic rituals to amplify negative energy and direct it toward a target. And, the heart shape of the pouch. It emphasizes the intent to inflict emotional pain and suffering.
So it's a very personal attack, aimed at the heart, literally and figuratively.
It's chilling to think that that capacity for cruelty can exist even within our own families.
It really challenges our notions of family, of safety, of where evil can reside.
Right. Unfortunately, despite this final ritual, the grandmother's health briefly improves but ultimately succumbs to the damage inflicted by the curse. It's a very tragic end.
It is a tragic end, but it's made even more heartbreaking by the revelation of the perpetrator.
Who turns out to be Paco's own uncle.
His own uncle. So the source of this evil was right there in their midst, all along.
And that fact that it came from within their bloodline adds a very chilling dimension to the story.
It really does. It challenges those ideas of family as a safe haven and forces us to confront the reality that darkness can exist in the most unexpected places.
It's a sobering thought, and it leaves us with more questions than answers. But before we delve into Paco's more recent encounters with duendes, these mischievous spirits that seem to occupy this, like, liminal space between playful and menacing, let's pause for a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Paco's experiences offer a glimpse into a world where belief shapes reality, where rituals hold the power to heal and to harm, and where curses can ripple through generations, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake.
And it's a lot to take in. It certainly challenges our conventional understanding of the world. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's move on to Paco's encounters with duendes. These stories offer a different perspective on the unseen world. One that is less about fear and more about the complexities of navigating a realm where the boundaries between reality and folklore become blurred.
Duendes. It sounds intriguing. A little less intense, maybe, than curses and brujeria.
Perhaps, but still full of mystery and wonder.
I'm ready to hear more.
Okay, let's dive in.
So duendes, right. They're these fascinating figures in Mexican folklore, often described as mischievous spirits. They love to play pranks. They
Yeah.
might hide your keys or like move objects around, make strange noises just to startle you.
So more annoying than, like, terrifying, right?
Yeah, I mean, they can be a bit of a nuisance, but Paco's encounters, they suggest that these interactions can be a bit more than just harmless pranks.
Right, okay.
There's like a deeper layer to these encounters, a sense that these beings, they're kind of testing boundaries, exploring the limits of our perception.
Okay.
And one of the most striking stories that Paco shares involves his young son at a playground.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one. This is where the son is, like, interacting with these invisible beings.
Exactly. So Paco's at a restaurant with his family. His son is playing on the swings in a nearby playground.
Okay.
Suddenly, Paco's wife, she frantically waves him over.
Oh.
He goes to see what's wrong, and his wife points out that one of the swings is moving on its own, even though there's no one on it.
Okay, that's a little creepy. But what makes it even weirder is that the son is watching the swing.
Yeah.
Like, he's interacting with something that no one else can see.
Exactly. And it's like the child is playing with these unseen entities, and they're choosing to reveal themselves to him, but not to the adults.
So maybe kids are more open to this stuff.
It's a common theme in folklore, in paranormal accounts. Children, they're often depicted as having a heightened sensitivity to the spiritual realm.
Right.
Maybe because they haven't yet developed the same filters or preconceived notions that adults have.
Yeah, it's like they're still open to the possibilities.
Exactly. It's a thought-provoking concept, right?
It is. It ties into this larger question of how our beliefs and expectations, they shape our reality.
Absolutely. If we don't believe something is possible, are we less likely to perceive it? It makes you wonder what else we might be missing, what other layers of reality might exist just beyond our perception.
Right. It's like we're filtering out experiences that don't fit into our worldview.
Exactly. It's like we're putting on these blinders.
Now, you mentioned that Paco's encounters with these duendes, they weren't always playful.
Right.
Can you tell us about some of the more unsettling interactions?
Yeah, there's this one story, it really stands out. It's the case of the missing phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This was kind of freaky.
Paco's phone, it just disappears. He searches everywhere, but it's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Then someone suggests leaving offerings for the duendes, like a way to appease them.
Like a peace offering.
Yeah.
To get on their good side.
Exactly. It's like a bargaining chip, a way to kind of establish a reciprocal relationship with these beings.
Oh, so did it work?
Surprisingly, yeah. After the offerings were made, the phone just mysteriously reappears.
Whoa. So they're almost messing with him, right?
It's both intriguing and a little unsettling, isn't it?
For sure.
It suggests that these entities, they're willing to interact with us, but on their own terms.
Right. And if we don't respect those terms.
Exactly. There's this sense of power dynamics at play here. These beings, they might be mischievous, but they also possess a power that we don't fully understand.
It's a good reminder that we're not always in control. There are forces at work that operate beyond our comprehension.
Absolutely. It's a humbling thought.
So we've heard Paco's experiences, and they're pretty captivating. But they're just one perspective. Are there any, documented cases or research studies that explore this phenomena, duendes or similar entities?
Well, there isn't a ton of scientific research on duendes specifically,
Right.
but there are numerous anthropological studies on, folklore, belief systems across cultures. And these studies, they often highlight these recurring themes of trickster spirits.
Okay.
Mischievous beings who kind of blur the line between, the natural and supernatural. So while we might not have concrete, scientific evidence, these stories, these beliefs, they persist across generations, across culture.
Right. It's like there's something more to it than just our imaginations running wild.
Yeah, exactly. And it speaks to that enduring power of folklore. The human need to make sense of the unexplained. These stories, they serve as cautionary tales. They teach us about the potential consequences of, disrespecting the unseen world and the importance of maintaining a sense of balance between, the human and the supernatural.
Like a reminder that even in our modern world, with all its technology and advancements, there are still mysteries that they elude our understanding.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so fascinating. We can't explain everything, and that's okay.
Okay. So we've talked about duendes, these mischievous spirits, but Paco also talks about the challenges of seeking help when you're dealing with, like, potential curses or spiritual attacks. He cautions against charlatans who prey on vulnerable people. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, this is so important. When people are experiencing fear, desperation, grief, they can be susceptible to exploitation. Paco actually shares this really chilling story about a young woman who was driven to suicidal thoughts after being manipulated by a fraudulent spiritual healer. It's a stark reminder that not everyone who claims to have answers is genuine.
Right, right. So how can people tell the difference? Like, how do you know who to trust in a world where it's hard to tell what's real and what's not?
It's a challenge. Discernment, it requires critical thinking, intuition, and a healthy dose of skepticism. Paco really emphasizes trusting your gut feeling. If something feels off, it probably is.
So do your research, seek out reputable sources, be wary of anyone who promises easy solutions or guarantees.
Exactly. And it's also about being aware of your own vulnerabilities and seeking support from, trusted friends, family members, even mental health professionals, if needed.
It's a reminder that even in this realm of the spiritual, common sense, and critical thinking, they're still essential.
Absolutely. Don't check your brain at the door.
Yeah.
Use it.
Paco's experiences and insights offer a fascinating glimpse into a world that many people might just write off as like taboo or superstitious. But his stories raise these really profound questions about the nature of reality, the power of belief, and the complexities of navigating a world where, the seen and unseen intersects.
It's a world that invites us to question our assumptions,
Yeah.
to explore different perspectives, and ultimately, arrive at our own conclusions about what we believe and how we choose to live our lives.
It's really interesting how Paco's journey takes us from these intense experiences with curses and healings to like the more ambiguous realm of these duendes. It's almost as if we're like moving from this black and white view of, good versus evil to a more nuanced understanding of the unseen world.
I think that's a great point. It shows how belief systems can be complex and how they evolve. Paco's encounters with these duendes, they do seem to be a little less about fear, a little more about a more personal, even playful interaction with the supernatural.
But even with these duendes, there's still that underlying sense of caution.
Right.
Like it's a reminder that these encounters can be unpredictable and potentially dangerous.
Right. And Paco talks about the importance of respecting these entities, understanding their customs, acknowledging their power. It's not about denying their existence or trying to control them, but it's about coexisting in a way that honors both our world and theirs.
It's a delicate balance, navigating a world where the lines between the seen and unseen are so blurred. Speaking of navigating, I remember Paco talking about the importance of finding genuine help when dealing with potential curses or spiritual attacks. He warns against these charlatans who prey on vulnerable people. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. This is crucial. Paco, he shares a particularly chilling story, actually, about a young woman who was convinced she was cursed. And she went from healer to healer, spending a fortune, tons of money, on elaborate rituals, remedies. But nothing seemed to work.
It's just heartbreaking to think of someone in that desperate state, searching for answers, and relief, only to be exploited by those who claim to have the power to help.
And what's even more tragic is that the woman, she was driven to suicidal thoughts. She felt hopeless, trapped.
So how did Paco approach this case? Did he believe she was actually cursed?
Well, Paco, with his experience, he was able to kind of see through the layers of fear and desperation. He started asking her about the people she had consulted, right? And a pattern emerged.
Pattern of exploitation.
Exactly. It became clear that this young woman had been taken advantage of. They convinced her that she was cursed, and they were just, bleeding her dry financially, promising these miracles that never materialized.
It's a stark reminder that not everyone who claims to have these spiritual powers, these insights, is genuine. Some are motivated by greed, and they prey on people's fears and anxieties.
Exactly. And that's why discernment is so important. Paco emphasizes trusting your intuition, doing your research. Seek out those reputable sources.
So what did Paco advise this young woman to do?
Well, he encouraged her to break free from that cycle of dependence that she had fallen into. He helped her see that the real curse was this manipulation, this exploitation that she had endured at the hands of these charlatans. And he urged her to focus on her inner strength, her resilience, to seek out genuine support, from friends, family, maybe even consider professional help.
Such a powerful message of empowerment. It's a reminder that we have the ability to, like, take control even when we feel lost and vulnerable.
Absolutely. And it shows that even in the realm of the spiritual, critical thinking is still super important. Blind faith can be really dangerous. We have to question, we have to challenge, to seek out different perspectives, especially before we make decisions that impact our well-being.
It's a lesson we can all apply, regardless of our beliefs or our experiences. So we've gone deep into this world, Paco's world, and it's been a fascinating journey. What are some key takeaways you want to leave our listeners with?
I think it's about embracing that mystery, staying curious, but also staying grounded in critical thinking. Paco's experiences, they're extraordinary, but they remind us that the world is full of wonders and complexities that we might never fully understand.
It's about recognizing that power of belief, but also recognizing that potential for uh, manipulation. It's about seeking out those genuine connections,
Yeah.
with the seen, the unseen, and trusting our own intuition to guide us.
And remembering that ultimately we all have the power to shape our own narratives, to choose our own path, to create a reality that is both meaningful and authentic.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the stories shared by Paco Arias. Did these experiences change your perspective on the unseen world? What do these stories reveal about the human capacity for both good and evil? And if you were confronted with a similar situation, how would you navigate those complexities? This has been The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring.